3 or 4 or 5 decades.
Secretary Brouillette, you might have noticed there's going to be an election coming up shortly, and it's a good sort of time to figure out what happened in the first 4 years of the Trump administration with respect to energy policy, because the president certainly made this a priority for himself. And I'll give you one example. He said he was really going to be a friend to coal. If you look at the numbers, actually, coal production in the United States has gone down over that period of time. Has the president accomplished what he wanted to with energy in the first 4 years?
Yeah, I don't think there's much of a question about that. As we look at the production numbers on oil and gas, for instance, we've seen them top out pre-pandemic right around 13 million barrels per day, the largest number we've ever seen here in the United States. That's, perhaps a 3 to 4 million barrel per day increase over the course of the last 3 to 4 years. So an enormous success story there. And again, as I pointed out earlier, it's provided us with economic security, but also foreign policy options. When we saw some incidents happen with Iran and Saudi Arabia late last year, as traumatic as they were, they didn't impact the markets in a material or significant way. And that's important for us to recognize. And, I think it's a direct result of pursuing an all-of-the-above energy strategy. The coal, transition is still occurring. Folks are moving to natural gas and other cheaper forms of energy. That is, in fact, true. But there's still a bright future for coal, and we're finding it in things like rare earth elements. We're finding it in alternative uses for coal. I was just up in the western part of Pennsylvania recently. Saw a business there that was remarkable. They were making decks, roofing materials, unimaginable things just a few years ago out of coal. So there is a high value business proposition for coal in America and indeed around the world.
At the same time, as you say, it's an all-of-the-above approach that you're taking. It includes alternatives. It's not just fossil fuels for the part of energy. And if there's another 4-year term for President Trump, what would you think about the crossover? How much will it shift increasingly over to renewables?
Well, the market drives so much of what happens with regard to renewables, and we're going to continue to see innovation drive this industry as well as other industries in the future. And that's a fundamental difference, I think, that this president has brought to this administration and to this government. We choose innovation over regulation. So we want to encourage the marketplace to develop these technologies, to bring them to market as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible, price them accordingly. And, the uptake from consumers is just going to drive the ultimate demand. But, in terms of what we do here at the Department of Energy, we are advancing the technologies around these alternative energy sources. We've developed new fuels for smaller micro reactors. They're 1 to 5 megawatts in power. They're accident tolerant, meaning you can't have a Chernobyl-type event. And they're non-proliferant, meaning you can't make a warhead out of the fuel source. So those are the types of technologies that we want to see move forward. And the reason we want to do that, David, is because these are baseload electricity generators, and the renewable technologies that we have today are entirely dependent upon the provision of this baseload power. And until we get to a point where we have grid-scale battery storage, natural gas, coal, nuclear, hydro, all of the things that provide baseload electricity in America, those are going to be what drives, actually, the renewable uptake all across the country.
Secretary Brouillette, there's been a lot of talk about infrastructure investing. Not much has really been forthcoming. Is there a role for the government in terms of infrastructure for both storage and transmission when it comes to renewables?
Yes, I think there is, and that's what I alluded to just a minute ago. With regard to the battery technologies, we launched a brand new facility out at our Pacific Northwest laboratory in Washington State, and the goal there is to allow this facility to do grid-scale, large-scale battery storage research and development, and it's an exciting project that we have. It's going to allow us to look at battery storage capabilities that exceed 20 megawatts, and that's an enormous step forward from where we are now. Combined with that is going to be a lot of R&D work being done on rare earth elements, and more specifically, perhaps substitutes for some of the rare earth elements that it is now done. That's a market now dominated by China. So if we can either develop the elements here through, perhaps coal ash, or if we can develop substitutes for those elements, then we can move battery technology forward very rapidly.